Welcome everyone to another episode of the Voices of Boyle. This week I'm joined by none other than Gerry Emmett. For anyone that knows Gerry, no introduction is needed, and for those of you that don't know him, no introduction would suffice. The episode is about 1 hour and 10 minutes long, and Gerry discusses a range of topics from his footballing years to current affairs. So with that, let's get on with the episode. Welcome to the Voices of Boyle, Gerry.
Thank you very much, Carlo.
So, Gerry, where do we start? Best thing to do probably is to take it right back to the early days of growing up as a young fella in Ballyfarnan. What were those days like?
Well, in Ballyfarnan I had 6 brothers, right? So we came from a large family, which most families were large in those days. And we had a brilliant youth in the sense that every day after school we were playing football on the street, and it was everybody kicking the ball, and we'd only one ball. We hadn't a ball for everyone in the audience like they have now, so you had to fight for your possession. Then I went to Summerhill as a 12, 13-year-old, and I didn't like going there because you were border and people had control over you, but I really loved it. It was Sligo was a real soccer town, and we started playing soccer there, and also the GAA, and I lived for the sport. I wasn't that interested in getting first in the Leaving Cert or whatever, but we had a fantastic time both in Gaelic and soccer. So that was my time in Summerhill.
That would have been back in the...
It was 1970 to 75 I was in Summerhill. We won a Connacht A title in the GAA, and we were beaten 1-0 in All-Ireland soccer final, a penalty, which I still dispute. But one of my biggest regrets to this day, and that's a long time ago, is losing the All-Ireland semi-final in the Gaelic to a Northern team. We were way better than them, but we didn't do the business on the day. So I still regret that.
Mm. So you summed it up there that you didn't like school as such academically wise, you were there to play a sport.
Well, I also was there because I knew my father had a business and I was always going working at it.
Okay.
In my own head, right. You know?
Yeah. So how would you sum up those days then in Summerhill as a young fella? It was great for football, great for sport.
Yes.
And you had good time with friends and stuff.
We met friends that we still have to this day, or I met friends, and also sport-wise, as I say, we travelled a lot with the soccer. We had a priest there called Father Harn, and a well-known man that used to be his assistant, Tommy Gorman, and they organised a lot of trips for us. One of them, which included, we went to Glasgow to play, represented Ireland in Glasgow and the colleges. And Sean Fallon from Sligo was the assistant manager of Glasgow Celtic at the time when Jock Steen was manager. So we were really well looked after, and we had a fantastic time there.
So were there any special traditions or activities as well that you would have enjoyed as a kid, apart from playing football, obviously? Was there any other kind of occasions throughout the year that you were fond of as a young fella growing up? Christmas time, stuff like that?
Not really. As I say, because I was so much involved in sport, I was never much of a drinker. Chased women, of course, but wasn't that much of a drinker. Not really. Our whole life was nearly around sport. Yeah. And as I say, when I started working with my father, I worked hard.
So getting into your father's business, because it was my mum that told me it was the Emmett remold.
Yes.
Where Healy's is at the moment. That was where...
No, well, actually, no. He had a garage, and he was the main dealer for Morris Oxford, Morris Miners in the country. Actually, one year he got an award for selling the most cars in the country. And then he started a remold just up the road from that. It's now housing. But in those days, which was strange for Ballyfarnan, he when your tyre wore down, he shaved the tyre with machinery and resurfaced it with rubber, which was brought in from Wales. And he had vans on the road selling to garages, and it was very successful for years.
And so that was so when the tyres got worn down, instead of buying new tyres?
Yes, they were cheaper than the new tyre.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there a specific type of tyre that Any tyre could be remolded.
Yes, we did tractor tyres, but mostly it was car tyres.
You used to kind of chip down the old tyre.
Well, he took it off completely. It was shaved completely.
Okay.
It's bald. And then there was solution put in it, and then there was hot presses, very hot, and the rubber moulded into the tyre. I actually worked there. I knew the process. And then I was a storeman in the garage. I looked after that.
Okay. And was there many of those remold businesses in Ireland?
No, I didn't know of any other one at that time.
So there would have been plenty of business anyway back
Yes.
days, yeah.
Yeah, but my father he was involved in a lot of businesses. He couldn't stay steady.
Right.
He arrived home when I was about 19, I think. And he told us he bought a shop in Boyle, that we were moving to Boyle. And that was Emmett Electrical, which were on the Crescent there for up to 30 years, I think. And so if I was married at 19. Phil was 18 at the time. She put on weight suddenly, and we decided we better get married in those times. And best thing ever happened to me, because Phil had a very good influence on me going forward. I needed someone to take control of me. So we moved to Boyle. Now, at that time, we had a good football team in Ballyfarnan, which included Keejo and Arigna. And Boyle had a good football team, so there was good rivalry. So moving to Boyle was not my idea at the time, but I grew to love Boyle.
And was the bit I have that it was started with Tom Murray, was that right?
Tom, yeah. Tom actually had an electrical shop in Boyle, and my father joined with Tom.
Okay.
And then eventually Tom he was bought out. And
you came along then and took the reins.
Yeah, well, I was working there with Tom as well.
Okay.
They had the cable television.
That's right. Yeah.
Which meant we went into every house in Boyle at the time. And that was interesting because we got to know people, because say we're dealing with every house in Boyle.
Right. So
some of the best people in Boyle, and some of the fondest memories I have are going out Tarman. There's some of the finest people in Ireland out there, and I really enjoyed their wit and their honesty.
Yeah.
You know.
It's been said a lot though about people about Tarman that they were the salt of the earth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so you supplied every house in the town with cable.
Yes.
There was no other competition back then.
No.
Right.
Boyle was in a valley,
yeah.
And signal, you couldn't get signal in the town at the time. With satellite, that all changed, obviously.
And obviously, I remember a lot was the VHS recorders that you used to sell.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember I'd have mum plagued every so often to go over and get an empty TV box so we could build a hut in. And I remember many of occasion going over and picking up an empty TV box from you as a young fella and bringing it back over to the chipper and playing house in it. But were there any challenges, Gerry, that you were faced with running a business like the electrical business back in those days?
I suppose indirectly, if I'm being honest about it, the biggest challenge was probably my father, because he wouldn't stay steady. And the minute he had one business, he was thinking about something else. Money seemed to burn a hole in his pocket, which suddenly became my pocket also, right? For example, he, down in Ballyfarnan, which was in a valley as well, and Keejo and that, they couldn't get any BBCs, and he went bouncing signals off the mountain to
try and get it, yeah.
And did, but that was all a costly process. They all clapped him on the back and told him he was mighty, but we were paying.
So moving then, I know we're going to get into the football and the gas stuff, but just before that, were the Mile Erg, were you involved with setting up the Mile Erg?
No.
It was Terry McGann,
Terry McGann.
Right, okay. I always knew it was
Terry McGann was involved. He owned the Mile Erg, and I used to drink a few pints in Terry's, and Terry obviously saw the potential in me because of my connections to sport, and he recommended we buy, which is now the Creeveen. So we went in there together.
Right, okay. That's where
yes. And then over the years, we bought him out.
Right.
And we had some unbelievable years. We were there for Italia 90.
Were you in the Creeveen?
Yes.
The Creeveen for Italia 90?
Yeah, we had unbelievable times in those times. And in those days, when you played GA matches, you would kick the crap out of each other on the pitch, and then you'd all go drinking together. Now they're going into gyms and swimming pools and headphones on.
It's changed completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all for the good. But
no, I don't think so. I know progression is what it is, but
yes.
Yeah. Obviously, your days in the Creeveen, customers would have found your approach amusing and entertaining. You'd agree with that, I'm sure.
Well, yes, we had a tendency to tell the truth, which is not the done thing anymore. People are very much offended. But no, we did. We got a very strong customer base there, and there was always some football team passing through, and I played soccer as well. We got some of the soccer teams in also. Mm-hmm. And like overall, it was very good. And then we veered off and we started doing a bit of food. It was actually Mary Batty. She used to make pies, and we started getting in pies. And if we're having late nights in those times, we used to get a few pies and things and customers, maybe 2 in the morning when you're supposed to be at home. But eventually we started going more towards the food, and then we're completely nearly food now.
Yeah.
We're not.
But that's for some reason I kind of always just remember it as a food, and because I would have been too young for the drinking side of things. But in those early days, as you said, it was a serious one for drinking. Yeah. And obviously then you got the reputation going as a good restaurant, and nowadays it's more of a pub restaurant as opposed to a drinking after hours kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I suppose what really bugs me now is that the attitude of people in restaurants. Our attitude always was to do the food fresh to the best of your ability and not rob the customers. And if they want a little bit extra, a little bit of this, that, give it to them. Try and make it that they've had a good experience.
Yeah.
I think the way things are now, the people are thinking of money first. Well, our business, what we were very proud of in our place is that a lot of, say, bachelor farmers or an old lady can feel free to come into our place on her own and know they'll get fed well and won't be robbed.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing that we're brought up to have respect for older people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true, because I think that's gone out the window as well. This, it's just not the way it was.
No.
Even as a young fella, I remember you'd have a lot more respect and you'd look after customers, that sort of thing. It's gone out the window now, fortunately.
Absolutely gone.
You know, and I don't see any sign of it coming back anytime soon. I hope it does, but I really don't see it.
Well, particularly as we get older, we're inclined to think more and think about things rather than as I get older, and we travel a lot. And if I go into a little restaurant in Spain and you're treated well and you're not robbed, you come out in good humour. You know?
Yeah.
And we try to do that with people. We actually try to give them a good experience. Yeah. Now, put it this way, if the odd fellow comes in that we don't like, we can deal with him too, you know?
You have a menu for that.
Yes.
So let's jump to the soccer part of it. Obviously, a great player for Boyle Celtic. Was it during the 70s and 80s or 80s and 90s you played with Boyle Celtic?
It would be nearly 80 because, no, it was just after 1980 because when I was living in Ballyfarnon, I played with our Harps in Riverstown.
Okay. We
had a school teacher who was in charge of them then they called Paddy Kelly, and he was a pure gentleman, and we had a great side. But again, we had a problem with numbers. We played in the cup final in the Shoregrounds one time, and we were waiting on a car to come from Dublin with a few players. I would have experienced that Ronans over the years as well, where the numbers weren't there, you know. So, but we had a great time there, and when I moved to Boyle, I started playing with Boyle Celtic.
What position were you in?
I was centre and midfield. You always need a brain to play there, by the way. And as I got older, I moved further back. Centre half, sweeper, and nearly on the goal line, you know. But we had great times.
Yeah.
Really a great time.
I'd say, like playing for Boyle Celtic, I was only going through the archives. You're in obviously a lot of them photos.
Yes.
Players like Johnny Green and it's like Jim Fee and all of them boys. Who was the manager? Who would have been manager for you during those days?
Well, I know Owen O'Donoghue Senior was manager. Actually, when I look back, I actually should have apologised to him because I was hard managed in those days. But he was a manager. There was a lad from Drumshanbo, a Kelly man from Drumshanbo, manages for Ohio. Yeah. Sean Cairns managed us for Ohio. a lot of different managers. We're a tough bunch to manage now.
Yeah. And did you win any titles?
We won the Roscommon League, definitely, because we had a lot of battles with the likes of Sky Valley in those times. And it was tough going. The pitches weren't like what they are now.
Yeah.
They were mucky and
big time.
There was a lot of kicking and a lot of sliding, tackling going in on that. But it's tough going. We were, I don't know if I was on any team that won anything in the Sligo Leitrim.
I don't think it was the Roscommon in '86 that won the league, I think, and then I don't think there was.
We had a very good side there, like with Larry Conn and people like that. Larry went on to play with Sligo Rovers for a while.
Okay.
And like with Chris Hill, a big, strong centre forward, a good player now.
Yeah.
And the likes of Christy Graham, Jim Fee and people like that.
Yeah.
And if we were very stuck, Frankie Fee got an odd game. If we were very stuck, right? We actually got to the stage with Frankie that if Frankie made a run, you wouldn't run because you knew he wouldn't pass the ball to you, you know.
You love hearing that. And come here, if you had to pick one player now, Gerry, from your time at Boyle Celtic in those days, one player that would have stood out as the best player that you've played with on a team, who would it have been?
Well, if I was picking one from our harps, it would be John O'Reilly, who was playing with the old fellas down at Boyle Celtic still. Okay. And well, Larry obviously was a very good player, but Christy Graham was a very smart player.
Right.
And he'd be very surprised to hear me saying that, but he was a good player.
Right. What were things like playing with Boyle Celtic back in those days? I know Boyle, for their home games, always had a changing room, which I even remember as a young fella, if you were playing away, you might be getting dressed, togged out in the back of the boot.
Yeah.
But the facilities in Boyle and the pitch in Boyle was relatively good compared to some of the...
Oh, yeah. Some places we went to, you just had to tug out on the side of the pitch like that, but... Yeah. I mean, we weren't used to anything else, so like it's fine. Like when down the pitch in Ballyfarnan, for example, the training area was rushes and that, and we tugged out the side of a tree there like that. But that was okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was par for the course kind of thing. There was one question asked. You might want to answer it, but was asked about the day yourself and a few of the teammates put down the shorts. Was that on the field or off the field?
That was on the field. We were playing in the Sligo Leitrim, and we were up on the side of a mountain, and we had no dressing rooms. And now, actually, Desi McLaughlin was Junior Smith, Desi McLaughlin, and one unusual one you wouldn't expect it to be involved was Christy Callan. Christopher always did everything right, but the ref sent someone off for some outrageous thing and went up complaining, complained about it, and next thing we were standing at the side of the pitch after. There's no dressing rooms, nowhere to go, and he told us to take our jerseys off. So I dropped my togs as well.
Right. Was that just you or was it everyone?
No, I dropped my togs. The lads took their jerseys off, obviously.
All right.
I got banned for that, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Right. What was the ban? Was a couple of games?
Actually, Sean Daly came up to tell me that it was 4 or 5 games I got. Yeah. And poor Sean has passed since now.
And so going from player, then you obviously took a stint managing Boyle Celtic.
Yes.
A very successful stint. It was over 2 years, I think, was it?
Yeah.
And you won the Super League in 2014.
Yes.
Which was only the second time they won it. 2001 was the first time. So that was a big achievement.
Yes. We had very good players, and as you start winning games, everyone gets interested. So we had no problem getting fellas down to training and whatever. But we had some lads that found it hard to train, but were very good footballers. Like in that time, if there was one player I'd pick out then, it would be Lee McKellen. Lee was a serious player.
Yeah.
Hard managed, to hear that, Lee, but a serious footballer. Yeah. But we won it. The team in Sligo was City at the time, and they had all these boys from Sligo town, and they were very good footballers. But the league used to boil down to 2 or 3 teams, and how he did against them, because you inevitably win the other matches. But City and ourselves had a lot of serious battles now. So
because City had like it used to be Merville, it used to be the Glenview Stars. Yes. They used to be able to pick and match between everyone. So City was
they had the pick nearly.
Yeah. You lost against them and you beat them. and then they drew 2 other games, which allowed you on the last
Yes.
game against
Yeah.
Tubber
Yes.
to win it. But that was serious. Out of 22 games, winning 21,
Yes.
22 was a serious achievement.
We had good players too now. Like we had Brian McCran and Jake and people like that. It was good. But Boyle Celtic in those times, I actually thinking back, Sandra McCran used to do the food and thing, and Sandra would arrive with homemade soup and treacle bread and all this kind of stuff. And we used to have big crowds at the matches, but I used to think they were coming down to get fed rather than come down to watch the football, you know.
That's right.
Sandra's passed now too. She was a great Boyle Celtic woman.
She did a lot of work. And
a lot of work.
She also did a lot of the photo archival stuff that's now available.
Correct.
You know, which was great to have because it was a lot of work that took to put all them clippings.
Sandra was a doer. She said she was doing something. She fully did it. You know.
Looking back over your playing and managerial time with Boyle Celtic, is there any kind of favourite personal memory that you would have that would stand out?
Well, the thing about playing with Boyle Celtic and managing after would be, we had great times. Michael Martin's pub was the centre of our social life those times, the 3 counties. And by Jesus, we had great times there. And there'd be people in there and all walks of life. And it was just he had a pool table and a dartboard, and they were all fully used, and it was great fun there, and they ran a good show. But when you go from player to manager, the biggest problem I had managing was leaving fellas out of the team. I found it very difficult. And you see, you'd read out the team and they think this is simple, but it's not simple because you're trying to win. You're trying to have the best team you can have on the pitch, and sometimes some of them players aren't the best to train. And you have to make a decision whether you're going to play the guy that's training all the time, but inevitably not good enough, or the other fella. So it was a balancing act.
Yeah, and it's hard as well when you're in a small community, small town like Boyle, leaving people out.
Yes.
There's always going to be that bit of...
But I also found it very difficult because when I played the GA with Roscommon, I came from an All-Ireland winning under 21 team onto a senior team. And I was full of beans and full of confidence and playing very well. And suddenly you wouldn't get picked. And you're wondering, what's happening here? And the next thing, nobody spoke to you or told you what the story was or whatever. And then you play well and train and do the business. And I found over a period that I just gave in. Yeah. I just stayed there for the ride rather than, right? So the one thing that I did when I was involved in both the GEA and the soccer after, you talk to people. You tell them if there could be a very close decision picking someone. And you tell them it was a tough decision, but that to be ready. Because particularly GA now is not a 15-man game anymore. It's 20, you know. So, but I always took that with me from my own experience. If some guy is close, he needs to know he's close. Because nobody told me whether it was close or whatever.
So moving on then, Gerry, to the Gaelic football side of things. Starting off, talk to us a bit about St. Ronan's. Because
St. Ronan's, when we were growing up in St. Ronan's, when we were very young, they had a very good team, the old team. They had great players like Michael Killorn, Mickey Lenihan, Sharkies, people like this. And we used to be up watching them training. And Gay Sheeran always said one thing to me, if you see a team coming down the pitch now, it's about 20 footballs coming out. There was one football then. So we'd be behind the goals, the ball would come, there'd be about 10 of us fighting for the ball. The one ball, right? Now that's all changed. But they had a guy in charge, Father Lavin, he was a priest and he was in Summerhill also. And he was actually in Boyle in later life, but he was a great Ronan's man. And he always instilled in us the importance of the jersey and also told us that we're only borrowing the jersey. Going forward, someone else will be filling it, you know. So he instilled the love of our jersey, and by Jesus, we love our jersey, you know. But we won. As I say, we won in my time. We won junior championship. We won. I have 3 intermediates, I think. But we were beaten in the league final at senior, and a semi-final actually, and a game we should have won against Clonagale. But we had some serious footballers in our team. I mean, Gay Sheeran was ahead of his time. He played goals for Roscommon for later years. And he was halfway out the field before that became popular. And he played midfield for us. Like we had Benny Flynn, we had some serious footballers now, you know. And we used to have lads coming from Dublin in those days when the roads weren't like they are now. And we'd be looking out the window, as I say, waiting for the car to arrive to make up the numbers. But the one thing I would always say about Paddy Lavin, he baptised our kids, confirmed our kids, married me even, right? And he was a serious Ronas man. And, like he had a big influence on us as young fellas now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
You mentioned that he was involved in Summerhill as well.
He was an Irish teacher in Summerhill.
Right. So he wasn't, there was, because priests were principals as well back in those days.
He was principal actually in Boyle, I think, Boyle Secondary School here going forward.
That's right. I remember him there. Yeah. I don't think I was there when he was principal.
He used to give sermons in Boyle here, and he was always talking about Ballyfarnan. And the general consensus is, if you're so fond of it, why the fuck don't you go back to it? You know?
Yeah. Because he was obviously from Ballyfarnan.
Yes.
Right, okay. So you won the junior championship in 1976, I think. There was a defeat by Boyle in the 83 final in French Park. Well, that hurt a lot, seemingly.
That hurt a lot. It hurt a lot. And one of the reasons it hurt a lot, we were a good bit stronger, in my opinion, on paper, but we didn't do it on the day. And my memory is that Kit O'Connor was marking me. He was my next door neighbour in Boyle at the time, next door. I found it very difficult to take the head off him. But after them watching them celebrating after winning, I would have no problem the next day taking the head off him. But that was the day too late. But like, Seth and Kit were great friends and are great friends, right? So Sean Daly that day, he scored, I think, about 3 points. 2 of them was left foot, and he didn't kick. He threw the ball to his foot, and it went over the bar. If he was still around, he wouldn't do it again. And we had a goal disallowed, of course. But they beat us. But I think we won it the following year.
You defeated St. Ronan's in the 86 final, and again in 96. I think you were a sub that year.
Yeah, I was 40 odd at that time.
And David O'Connor was the manager.
David, yes, who's now in Boyle.
Yeah.
But Dave was manager. And actually in the county final we had an easy run. It was easy enough, you know. Yeah. The following year I played, went senior that year after winning the intermediate, and I played the following year and then gave it up. Actually I gave it up. I probably would have stayed longer, but a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, down in Clare, who was boarding in Summerhill with me, they were stuck, the team down there, and he tugged out for them and he dropped dead in the football field. So that day I threw my boots in. But another one person I have to mention, going back to Ballyfarnan, was Vincent McDonough, who's also living in Boyle. Vincent owned the Boyle Motorworks.
That's right.
Yeah. Vincent was a chairman of our club. Before that, he was he played on that good team I talked about. But when we were growing up and we were young fellas on the street and we were under 16 or whatever, we'd be playing a match and we'd have no one to bring us to the matches. Vincent used to load us all into my father's Remo van, all in now, you'd be arrested for it now, and off to the match. So we have very fond memories of Vincent, a great Ronans man. And still to this day, I think Vincent's nearly 80 now. You'd see him at Ronans matches.
Okay, so Gerry, moving on then to, obviously the biggest milestone in your career would have been the 1978 under-21 All-Ireland win against the aristocrats of Gaelic football, Kerry, who were going for, I believe, 3 in a row that year at that level. You were man of the match, scoring 4 points as a centre-half. Centre forward, right? Yeah. Tell us about the build-up to that even and the day itself.
Well, the build-up to that was, first of all, nobody gave us any chance. Kerry were supposed to beat the crap out of us, right? But the year before, Leitrim beat us in the Connacht final, right? And from that year, we just lost. Gay had been playing that year, and Danny Murray and Jigger. I think we lost them players who were very good quality players. So the next year, we had Tom Heenan, who played senior, who was kind of managing us. And Tom instilled a great belief in that team. Okay. Yeah, we actually did a few weeks training, nearly full-time training, which was unheard of at that time. We were up in Roscommon and you'd train in the morning and train in the afternoon. and then come home in the same. So he instilled a belief in us that we could win. We had won the All-Ireland semi-final by a point, which I scored, by the way.
Okay.
And I remember that for one day, the keeper was coming out and I was going in, and the two of us throwing the ball at the same time, and spun over the bar for the winning point. But that's not what actually happened. Was I lost my football boot. I couldn't find the thing after, right? And that's the time when we had to pay for our own boots, right? Doesn't happen anymore, no handouts. But we went on anyway to the All-Ireland final, and it was in Roscommon, and it was a great occasion.
How, just before, like, that was one thing when I read about it was, why was it not in Croke Park?
Well, no, Croke Park wouldn't have got 21 underage that time. The only thing, the minors would be on before the seniors that time in Croke Park. But Croke Park would be so big and the crowd would not be big. Why it was in Roscommon, I don't know. Micheál O'Callaghan, another Boyle man. Micheál was chairman of the county board, and for some way, he got some way around to have the game in Roscommon. I suppose Kerry would have been confident they were going to take us. But it was a great occasion. But, and of course, as I said earlier, I was married at that time, by the way.
Back then?
Yeah. So, on that occasion, after the match, the following evening, you go around the county. Yeah. And as I said, I wasn't a drinker. And they had a big setup down in Ballyfarnan waiting. And I got caught in strokes on with a few boys. And I never got to Ballyfarnan, which I always regretted, right? But actually, since then, that was 1978, and every time I've gone to Strokes on since, I always seem to have trouble getting out of the fucking place. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yes.
How big of a deal was it for people of the county back then?
It was huge.
Right.
Because the last team that won it, actually John Kelly, who was living in Boyle also, John was on that team. And I think Jim, or the Clark man was on it. What do you call him? Jim's his brother.
I saw.
Pat Clark.
Right, yeah.
Pat Clark was on it, and there was a Nicholson lad from Corrigan Row also. So it was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. I went in after that the following year onto the senior panel, full of beans. Then when you start not getting games, sure.
And wasn't Roscommon then in the final of the 1980s?
I was a sub that day.
You were a sub on that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you had the experience of being in a senior Ireland final.
Yeah.
The manager of that under-21, Tom
Heenan.
I read that he was he hated the opposition that was his kind of mantra. Well,
Tom was a cornerback himself, and he wasn't that tall, but he was he'd kill you.
Right.
Roscommon had players like the likes of that 1980 team. You had the likes of Harry Keegan. Cornerback Harry Keegan was a superb footballer. He had Gerry Cannell, but the greatest of them all, of course, is Tony McManus.
Okay.
Tony Mac was oozing in class, both left, right foot, and he had a very long career with Roscommon. And he won the Siggers and he won a lot of stuff, but he was the man. And Gay was on that team, Gay Sheeran from my own club.
That's right, he was kicking. Yeah. And would them years have been considered, Gerry, the kind of golden era of the Roscommon?
Well, I'd say a lot of Roscommon fellas going forward are fed up listening to that time. It's nearly time to change it again, you know.
Yeah.
But that was certainly a lot of good players on that time. So, club football was very strong then as well. Nah.
So apart from the under-21 win that you had the county any? I think was it the minors in 2006 had a
and Fergal O'Donnell and Steve Bowen were involved in that now. Right,
so that was,
and Keane Smith was a part of that squad.
Yes, so that would have been the only other All Ireland after that of significance. Okay,
they won a junior All Ireland at some stage. Rory O'Donoghue was on that team.
Was he? Yeah. Right. Were you part of the Roscommon team, Gerry, that went to the US in 1982, I believe, for 19 days or something?
Yes, we went for 19 days, and Armagh and ourselves went. And the reason Armagh and ourselves went, we had met Armagh. We used to meet them a good bit around that era, and there was a lot of very hard games between us. So it was two teams going out there that weren't really in love with each other, and the football out there was some serious clipping because the pitches out there weren't as wide.
Okay.
And they were very physical games, but we had a serious social time out there as well now.
That's it.
There was a lot of
Bit of drinking.
A lot of drinking and partying.
Yeah.
And ringing the wife late in the mornings.
Yeah. The time difference.
Yes.
And was that funded by the county, or did you have to pay for
the county? I think they ran fundraisers, but like it didn't cost us anything, like spending money. But a lot of stuff was provided for us out there now.
Yeah.
But we had some serious clashes out there, and those really good times now.
Yeah. And so, from your Gaelic career, who would you put down as the best player that you played with and against?
Well, definitely the best player, as I said, that we played with, I would always put Tony McManus up there. Tony was a serious footballer, both feet, great balance, great strength. And a player I loved watching in our time would be Mike Sheehy, but they are two forwards now. And close by would be Harry Keane, was a serious footballer. Harry was cornerback from Castlereagh, living in Dublin. Harry was a serious footballer as well. And very clean, a big, strong man, but very clean. On the other hand, Tom McGillia, Tom Heenan,
Oh,
but,
right, yeah. Have you any regrets from your playing days?
Very much regrets. I should have achieved a lot more. Actually, most of my regrets in life is to do with football, not do with business, right? Because football, you get a certain period to play. And I kind of threw in the towel and didn't. Now, it wasn't all my own fault, but a lot of it was my own fault. But I underachieved, and that would annoy me. I should have been part of that. I should have been on the pitch, but it's no one's fault, only my own.
Yeah.
But then nowadays, as I say, I've learned from that. And as I said, bringing it forward to younger players, I can talk to them and tell them.
You had a lot of injuries. I remember even when you used to play football, I think I played with you in the reserves for both Celtic.
Yeah, we won a thing in Sligo in the reserves, actually.
Right. But I remember you had a few injuries. Would that have...
Well, I have a replacement knee now.
Right.
No, but at the time, most of my injuries in football were when I shouldn't have been playing. When I was too old. I had to get a replacement knee. I have a plate in my head. It broke my nose 3 times. I have a finger was a good shot up line.
Your playing days were cut short?
Well, no, I finished playing at 43.
Ah, well then, yeah. So injury didn't play a part, really?
Well, not really. The last few years I played, I couldn't kick with my right foot because my knee was gone. But I kicked with my left foot.
Right. That's just as good, no?
Well...
some might say.
Depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, of course. Switching topics, Gerry, you had brothers that were musically orientated.
Very musical. My mother was a good singer. My father, when he had a few pints on him, used to yodel. So we, as I tell the wife occasionally, we come from a musical background, right? I had Brendan, my older brother, who's a very good musician.
Okay.
He played with Sharon Shannon, I think, and he played with Jargon. But he was a fantastic guitarist and mandolin player on that. And then Paul, who plays electric guitar, he plays in the wedding band, and he's a very good guitarist. And then, of course, with Kieran, who's passed. And Kieran was a great character. He never missed a fly. It used to take him a long time to get home from them.
Yeah.
There's a famous story when he was down, there was a fly in Ennis. My father had the remolds at the time. And this was before mobile phones and all this stuff. And my father was under pressure for money, of course, and Kieran delivered a load of tyres to a guy in Oranmore. And my father was waiting for the money to lodge it, to keep Sean Young happy. And no sign of Kieran, couldn't contact him. And they were watching the news, 6 o'clock news, and lo and behold, they saw the Emmett Remold van driving up behind the news reporter. So he knew at least where he was anyway.
Yeah.
But Kieran was a character.
He was. He comes up in a lot of conversations even.
He had a lot of good sayings now.
Yeah, he did.
A lot of good sayings. And
a lot of them it couldn't be repeatable. No?
Well, a lot of them possibly no. But he certainly he had a short life, but he lived to the full. He drank. I remember him coming home times and my mother would be giving out to him and he'd start waltzing around the kitchen with her. And of course...
Yeah, all was forgotten.
Yeah. All was forgiven, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But, I do have vague memories of Kieran. For some reason I can't.
Kieran was 11 months younger than me now.
Yeah.
And I have another brother that was 11 months older than me, both dead. And then of course Alton died also.
So let's talk maybe a bit about, the kind of boom days, the Celtic Tiger, the recession. How did they affect business? Were you involved in business during this, right?
Very much.
Okay.
Well, I'll say is I remember Boyle when we had the Royal flying. when we had Nair, we had Logonaut flying, we had
Fish Factory.
We had all these places, and Boyle is a great town, a great shopping town. And then suddenly we don't have we have no hotel now. We had the Forest Park, we had the Royal, and now we've no hotel. And it's a big loss to the town. But what I've seen over the years is we saw the recession, and we saw, well, personally, I remember times when there was serious pressure in the shop. We'd have a check-in, and I'd be going footballing on a Friday or on a Sunday, and you'd be wondering where you're getting the money to cover the check-in on Monday. So we went through all them times, and then we got out of them, and we went into the pub, and suddenly we had money in our bank account, and then we had someone ringing from the same bank that was thinking of bouncing the check on us a few years earlier, advising us what we should be investing in. So that didn't go well. But anyway, we worked through all that, and as I say, I've seen the big thing in Boyle when we moved in was all the people that lived in the town, all the families. Like I remember the likes of McLaughlin's up in Elphin Street and all those families, O'Connor's and Penn Street and all those out on the streets and whatever. And suddenly a lot of these houses are derelict now. There's no one.
Yeah.
But I have a big problem with that in a sense, because I think we're totally over-regulated. That the minute you go to do anything, regulation, everything takes time, and it's everything time you turn, it's money.
Red tape.
Money, yeah, red tape, money, regulation, and it's killing the whole system. I mean, even when we were in the pub and restaurant, we haven't many restaurants in Boyle now, and yet when we had to go in to get the licence back in our name, fire officer in, health inspectors in. Now I know we have to have everything pretty good, but they nearly come in to find fault rather than to help you. That was always my attitude. Health inspectors come into us, and you can be sure 3 or 4 days later you'd have 4 pages of things you need to do, and a lot of them total insignificant crap.
As you said, they're trying to prevent you from...
Yes. Yeah. And like, here we are with a housing crisis. Like, you drive around Ireland, all the small towns are empty. Derelict houses everywhere, and we've a housing crisis. Yeah. Here we are, we have people on the streets, our own people, and yet when it comes to, there's a war in Ukraine, we've all these Ukrainians coming in, right? We're not able to look after our own. We're up there first, and the first thing they are taught is what they're entitled to. What they're entitled to. I have no problem with people. Everyone should be vetted coming into our country, in my opinion. And if they're willing to work, we have 2 Syrian chefs, 2 great lads. No problem at all working. I have no problem with anyone's nationality. They should be vetted, and they should be working. Otherwise, why should we feed the world? We have to be with the best do-gooders.
Well, we always want to be first in that regard.
We're first at regulation. We're going to save the planet, by the way. That Ryan fella is saving the planet, right? We're a nation of so many million people, but we're going to save the planet, single, right? We're first at everything. Like, we travel a lot. I've been in France and seen beef hanging out of the roof with flies all over it. Totally over-regulated. Everything is... these health inspectors, I know we have to have them and things, but they should be coming in to see how they can help us rather than how they can hinder us. And I'm finished now in business, but looking back, my God, we're over-regulated.
Like, it's just nonsense. It really is nonsense, and it's going out of control as well.
It's a lot of people, less businesses, a lot of business closing down. Staff don't get sacked. You can't, in our civil service system, you can't get sacked. Any system you can't get sacked in or let go is flawed. If someone is working with me and they're not, if they're putting on weight or not doing the job, I'm not the guy to be working with, right? In our civil service system in this country, you can't get sacked. No accountability, none whatsoever. How many times have you seen, say, even RTE, top of the RTE, suddenly they get sick, they can't come before a committee, they walk away with a big pension and probably a lot of money. The same actually with the bank regulator on the crash cam. He was saying everything was fine one day, and next thing, Troika were in. He wasn't accountable. He walked away with a huge amount of money in a pension. The whole thing is flawed. And now they're talking, just when we're on it, and this will probably be controversial but with harm, this working from home disaster, in my opinion. Civil service on about going to 4-day week, flexi time. They can work when they want, whatever. To me, it's... And also, a lot of good people are leaving jobs where you have to work to join the civil service. But my attitude to that is we're only here once. You as well be challenged a bit rather than
sitting back,
sleeping most of your life.
Do you think, I think though the whole working from home, remote working came in as a result kind of the COVID. Yeah. Now I remember, you know, even 10 years ago, I was saying to the lads, there's going to come a day when majority of businesses are going to be operating from home, because I could just see it with the way the advancement goes. And I just think when COVID came along, it was the excuse for businesses to say, well, look, work from home. We don't have to have rent now and stuff like this. It made it easier.
But how do you get experience if you're working from home? If you start a job tomorrow and you're in an office surrounded by 60 or 70 people, you can learn from some of them. You're sitting at home, you log in the morning, you have your breakfast, you're in your pajamas, right? You don't move all day. And like, to me, it's what's...
I totally agree. I think, unfortunately, the way things are going, I'm not sure if you're aware of the whole AI movement that's going on, but that's going to be a complete game changer. Not necessarily in a positive way all the time, but it's going to make people be able to just sit down, as you said, at home. They don't need to interact with real humans, because it's all going to be done artificially online. That's the way forward, and that's unfortunately for the youngsters coming up, the younger generation. They're going to know no different.
Well, if I'm in the pub, restaurant, and you come into me, I can make a difference to your day. If I'm sitting at home on a laptop, I don't make a difference to anyone's day.
No.
And life becomes very boring. You're going to have a society where people are on their phones, their laptops, not intermixing at all. Intermixing. You need to mix. You need to...
I agree. And I think, again,
we're losing...
we're losing the interaction.
Yes.
Interaction.
Yeah.
And I do think that the 2-3 years of the COVID kind of era has instilled this kind of sense of, well, it's okay not to mix.
Well, I'll tell you about COVID and my thing, right? I spent a good bit of time in Spain during COVID, but also it was outdoor living there, so it wasn't so bad. But here, to put the fear of God in everyone, my favourite man at the time, of course, was Tony Houlihan, right? Now, if you were in civil servant and all that kind of capacity, you loved him. But if you were working for yourself and that...
Small business.
Yeah, but he frightened the big jizzes out of everyone, right?
Yeah.
We had people old people afraid to leave their houses, right? Crazy stuff altogether. I mean, it was unbelievable. We had old farmers who just come into us for dinner and suddenly they were afraid to leave the house. They might talk to nobody the whole day. How can that be healthy? And the biggest thing that I saw then was people in nursing homes dying on their own.
Family members not.
I cannot believe with the time, with technology, with everything, how they couldn't have had a room somewhere or did something to have family in with you when you're dying. Because I know people that a parent died and it traumatized them after. They'll never forgive themselves for not being there with them. Like, they were supposed to do a report on COVID and the effects of it. I haven't seen anything yet. I'd be interested to see it, actually, because I think it's...
Well, one thing that I found very strange was up until the Ukraine war started, you were not allowed to mix with, granny can't come over, you can't go over. And then all of a sudden, the Ukrainian war started. And within a couple of weeks then, we were told that Irish families should take in Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was very strange, because why are you all of a sudden then saying it's kind of done with? And I know it's a controversial topic, believe you me, it is.
Well, I'll tell you, you look at the UK, they had a boat somewhere to putting Ukrainians offshore somewhere, right? And I'll just talk about the hospitality for a minute. A lot of the hotels closed down and brought in Ukrainians, right? And don't tell me that the owners were concerned about the Ukrainians. It was all to do with the finances, the money, right? Now, these hoteliers were the same guys that the government looked after very well during COVID. And they turned around by closing their doors and taking in Ukrainians, right? I cannot agree with that. And then the ones that stayed open, a lot of them are price gouged. You go to Dublin, go whatever. If you're charging €100 for a room today and you're making money, why do you need to charge 400 or 500 for the same room if you're making money at 100? Like, where is?
Well, it's the greed that comes into it, as we talked about earlier. Yeah, it is.
And then they turn around and they expect the government to turn around and expect them to keep the VAT rate down. They have no. Actually, I think in the hospitality, the bars and restaurants should pull away. There should be a separate identity rather than the restaurant or the hotels, because the hotels have not done themselves any favours. And it'll be all right until you're down in Kerry or place like that, because we don't matter. But if you're down in Kerry or place like that and tourists can't stay because there's no place to stay, and the restaurants, there's nobody in them because there's no place to stay, that's when you see trouble. You won't see it. We're insignificant as part of the...
Yeah, we're not affected by it as much.
No.
But you even see it with the Airbnb. When that started off first, it was extremely affordable all across the world. Now, I mean, it's outrageous, the prices of Airbnb. So much so that well, not now anymore, but a few months ago, hotels were the cheaper option. But that's kind of changed now. Again, they're kind of going up against each other. And if one's charging this much, the hotel is charged the same because they have to compete.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a vicious circle that you can't get out of. And I don't see it changing.
But so in Sligo there now, that student accommodation, and they stopped taking in students to put in. I don't know how that panned out now because there's a lot of pressure coming. But to me, I mean, I know it's a war in Ukraine, but people, I'd say again, we have to look after our own first, and anyone that's coming in should be vetted. And I always ask the question, why do we have to be always the do-gooders in this country?
The change in even the last 10, 15 years is crazy. You know, the younger generation, which I was going to ask you, what do you think of the young generation these days?
I worry about the young generation. I worry big time because, as I say, if they're going to be sitting at home, not interacting, in our time, you walk down the street, you always met characters. You met characters in the bar, you'd chat. We had all good characters in Boyle here and good characters everywhere. So that's a thing of the past now, you know. Now, on the other hand, as I say, at the moment in Boyle Celtic, go back to, and we'll talk about the pitch.
Yes, the new development.
Yeah. What a development like. Now, first of all, I have to say I was against the Astro pitch myself.
Initially.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think tackling is an important part of the game. And a lot of the lads were soft before this, so God knows what the fuck they'll be after it. But I do understand that the numbers between ladies football and everything are growing big time. And that needs must. And I understand it from that point of view. And it's turned out, it's fantastic. And the one thing, when we were in the bar, Boyle said they get a meeting of all their coaches and that. And I was blown away with the amount of young coaches and outsiders that Boyle Celtic had. And they've introduced a few of the women, as Leanne Connolly, for example, down there now. Yeah. And that's another thing I've noticed in the last few years, that if you want it done, ask the women to do it. I see it in the golf club in Gaelic. I see I've brought ladies on committees and they really do the work, you know. Yeah. But Boyle Celtic development, fantastic.
It really is. And I think when I heard about it first as well, I know there was a few other people that were kind of objected against it, but I could see their reasoning behind it. I think, to make a kind of a comparison, is like when the cash goes, it's not coming back. Yes. It's like when the grass goes, it ain't coming back either. And as you said there about the tackling aspect, with 500 plus players, I think, which Boyle Celtic have, and all the different various underage, you need to have...
Well, I was hoping they could buy a bit of land elsewhere and hold the pitch, because that was a good pitch now, you know. Yeah. But I understand where they're coming from, but like the amount of people down there now is huge. And actually the GA have done a big job on their pitch down there now as well. The Boyle GA pitch, it's a beautiful setting beside the Abbey.
It is, yeah.
And it's a fantastic pitch. And they've now tarmacked all around it and whatever. So we have some serious facilities here.
Oh, massive. They're also building a 200-seater stand, or in time. which will be great as well, because then you'll have a nice little setup there.
But it's when we'll be in the pub now and tourists come in, they're all heading for Donegal, Galway and Kerry to be robbed, right? Mm-hmm. And I always trying to send them down to Keiju, Ballyfarnan, Keiju, Arigna, the mining experience. And now the distillery in Drumshanbo is huge to the area. They have a restaurant down there and they do tours. And it's huge. It's huge. So we now have, of course, we have Kilronan Castle.
Yeah. There's enough to keep people
well, they don't know. That's the real Ireland. If you drive around between Ballyfarnan up the back up to Arigna, you wouldn't get better. And a good day, it's beautiful scenery, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. So going forward then, Gerry, into the kind of future, any retirement plans?
No, what we do is both the wife and myself play golf. And as I say, that's great because we go to Spain a good bit and we play golf every second day out there.
Yeah.
And she's probably better than me, but we have plenty of rows over it too. But no, by the way, we worked together, say Phil was 18 when we got married, 16 when we got to know her, and we've been working together since then.
All your lives, yeah.
And we're still talking. We get on actually. She's a mighty woman, as I said. She was far more intelligent than I was, but she kept me kind of half middling, you know. Yeah. And now is her time.
Yeah.
It's payback time of a good bit of making up to do over the years. but no, it's good. And we actually go to, what I like about Spain, you're staying there and you're playing golf, you're meeting, we put our name down, you could be playing with Norwegian people, Icelandic people, Irish people, English people, and they don't really give a fuck about us, and we don't about them.
You just play your game.
You play your game, and you could end up going in for a few drinks, and we got to know a load of people out there, right? But there's no expectation of anything. That day is gone. We're where we are, and we're happy enough where we are. But we were never on for accumulating money anywhere, stuff like that. It was all about get the product right. And I would like to think that in our time in the bar, we contributed to the town. Yeah. And we didn't rob people. No one ever walked out of our place and they were robbed. Yeah. You know, and we did our best with the food. It was fresh every day. And we often went out and someone wouldn't know what this is. Throw a bit of this out and that. And
keep them happy, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we throw my waddy orange or blackcurrant out free, and we top up your coffees. Yeah. And people are amazed at this anymore now because everyone is charging for everything. They should think of doing the product right first.
And the money will follow, yeah.
Money will follow.
Yeah. Well, that's the way, I suppose that's the kind of old way of thinking as well. Old way as in the proper way.
Yes.
Because as I said, everything nowadays is all about money and taking as much as you can one time. They're not interested in getting return.
We are
exactly
totally different. Yeah. But our son now is taking over with Kelly, and we're very happy that they're doing well so far. But every day is a learning day. Mike Smith, Junior's father, used to say every day is learning day. Mm. And that's true.
And apart from then golf, you used to ski a lot, didn't you?
Well, Phil still skis every year, and we've gone to the same village for about 30-something years now. We have creatures of habit, but Phil still goes skiing. I can't ski with my knees anymore now. Well, I could ski, but
you'd have no knees.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
So, and if you're not on the mountain during the day, there's nothing happening in the village. So
you've been referred to as a dying breed of an entrepreneur who's a workaholic. Would you agree with that?
Well, we work. See, every day, even now, I was in the pub today, and the minute you walk in, you're playing the room, and I'm looking at all the plates. And if I see plates come back with food on, I'm wondering why. Mm. So it's always work in motion. And I also think if people come into your pub, a lot of them come in because they expect to see you there. So you should be there.
Right. Yeah. So again, that's the old tradition as well. Yeah. The owner is there chatting and giving out.
Now, maybe some of them I'd say might be happy when they don't see me there, but no, it's a fantastic spot, Grieving, and it's absolutely great to see such a mix of people.
Yeah.
And I love when I walk in and see old people on their own there because that means we're doing something right.
Yeah. Sure.
They feel comfortable. Now, I wouldn't like to go in there with a laptop and spend 2 hours drinking the coffee now. We needed a space, you know.
Yeah, I know. Oh, but it's not that big of a yes, of course.
But Boyle, we need more restaurants. It's tough work.
Yeah, there was a talk of a boutique hotel opening up at that Drummond, isn't it?
But you know, yes, but in Boyle, they have made several attempts to have hotels over the years, and there was always people objecting.
A few bats.
A few stuff like that now.
Yeah.
You know, usually the people that object to these things have a good income themselves, and they're going to get paid anyway. So I would like people to think twice before you object, because we need a hotel badly. We have Lockheed, we have a lovely town, but we need a hotel. We need a few more restaurants badly too. But
yeah, I think definitely the hotel of some capacity, even if it's 6-12 rooms or whatever, something that would bring back the kind of glory days, because we have everything else, as we mentioned there, the facilities, the amount of sports in town now is crazy.
Yes.
Camogie, everything we have. But we're just missing that. I think a heartbeat of a town is a hotel, because historically it used to be, like the Royal, for example, was the heartbeat of the town for generations.
But when I talk about our place now, the funny thing about it, where you could say we were workaholics in our day, both the wife and I, we never really fell out with any of our staff. I'm just thinking now about the staff we had. We had a lot of chefs coming and going over the years, and they're still all talking to us. But we had one very sad occasion with a young girl working with us, and she was killed, young McKenna girl. I remember the first day she came in to our place, they say, and she was talking to Phil, and she came in and she was looking for a job, and she had a thing in her nose here, and she had a tattoo or whatever. And I cut in and said, it's very hard work here. I'm not afraid of hard work, she says, right? And I says to her, who are you anyway? What's your name? She said, McKenna. And because sure, I knew the father, Noel, to the old football. I said, do you know Noel's daughter? So I said, we'll take a chance on you. Well, do you know what? The first week or two, she wasn't working with Noel, and she was off in Amsterdam for a weekend. She came back and she looked like death. And she was worn that time, but she turned out to be, what a girl. She was very artistic. And Phil is a very good painter also, right? So she was so good. She could have run the place on her own in the finish. And she was a beautiful girl. And next thing she was killed in the car crash. So that was very sad. But we have a bird working in the back for years was Aaron's mother, Michelle. I'll have to give her a mention now, because her loyalty has been unreal. And now that Kelly and Alan's there, she has their back all the time. And what a woman,
It's great to have someone that's experienced as well over to be looking out for you like that.
And as I say, we had chefs, but usually when the chefs never left us, Mary McDermott was there for 16 years now.
That long.
Yeah, and Mary used to work with us and then took it over from us. So, and then Aaron had it for a while, and then COVID came, so we had to go back in. We were worried about going back in, but you
got to lift it off.
But we always worry anyway. Like the day you think you know it all, you're in trouble.
That's it. If you're not always learning, it's.
But it's a great place to meet people, and like when tourists come in, like, and the stories and slagging them and having a bit of fun, and you can make a difference.
The pub trade though is even the traditional pub trade though is dying breed. Diageo's
attitude to things are going very bad, so we put the price up. But the pubs in Boyle, how many pubs are in Boyle now? Like
5 or 6.
That's it, yeah.
Going from 32, I think.
And even in Ballyfarna now, there's one pub open in Ballyfarna and they don't open full time. There's about 8 pubs in it that are in my town, yes. But every other business in Ballyfarna, there's a good few businesses in Ballyfarna, they're all flying. There's a gunny lad there, he does, I don't know what he does, but he's employing a lot of people. And you have the garage, the garage that we owned, Gayshear and sister and her husband are there now for years. He used to work with my father, pure gentleman, Frank Healy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, sure, you know Frank. Yeah,
yes.
Well, they're flying.
Yeah.
Clorence are going very well, post office there, Tommy Dowd. They're all flying.
Plenty of business.
And yet, there's no bar. It just tells you where it's going now. If you decide to go in for a few pints tonight, unless you had to arrange to meet someone, there's a chance that there's nobody in the bars.
That's changed drastically in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Well, I suppose drink driving and stuff like that is
yeah. But even the younger generation, though, I don't think when I was young, it was always you go to the pub. Now there's kind of staying at home. There's this kind of.
But also, I believe now, I'd be old-fashioned stupid that way, but I believe a lot of stuff has gone up noses now rather than drinking pints.
Well, there's always going to be that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's shifted from the pints to drugs is into every town and village.
Every village,
Every village in this, and it's only a matter. And then, as you said, they're probably not drinking as much as they're doing drugs.
Yes.
Not everyone, of course, don't get me wrong, but it's prevalent, it's there, and again, it's not going away anytime soon.
After a football match one day, I was in the pub and all these guys kept going to the toilet. I thought they had bad kidneys, like, you know, but I was told after it just put stuff up their nose. That's how stupid I was, you know. But
I know.
But I worry going forward. There's no characters anymore. There's no, and we're not going to solve that by having people sitting at a laptop at home, working flexi time.
Not en masse as well, anyway, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt, if that's the way business is going to be going forward, there's going to be no interaction. You might as well have another COVID, because people will be doing the same thing as they were during COVID. You know, they won't be going out interacting, they won't be going out in the streets playing and all that. You know, the youngsters anyway.
In our time, everybody spoke to everybody, said hello.
Yeah.
If you walk down the street in Boyle, if you started in Great Meadow and walked down and said hello to everybody, you will see some people looking at you with shock. That's the way we're going.
That's been said across the board as well.
So you can't tell me that's good.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. As you said, people will look at you as in, what are you saying hello to me for? Like, it's a sad day though, that.
But the thing in the football, like, as I said, we were street footballers and you developed all your skills. And now people go training specific time to have your hour training or whatever. Everything is kind of programmed in. There's no
flexi.
There's no natural stuff anymore. You know. But I'd be afraid to be conducting their life in the same way. We better have sex now, like, you know.
Yeah.
Now's the time, like, you have 10 minutes. Right? I'm back working after that, the laptop.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else, Gerry, that you'd like to touch on that we haven't chatted about?
Not really. We're getting old. Going forward, we try and stay healthy for a while.
Yeah.
Try, as I said, we'll go to Spain in October. And it's great at this stage in our lives that we get on. We were married so young, I could have went anyway. So, but I'm happy out. I'm happy at home.
That's the main thing.
Not able to drink nearly. I never was a big drinker anyway, because when you're involved in sport heavily, you have a few pints and that's it.
That's it, yeah.
But as I say, we buried a lot of people. That's the only thing. Everything is a lot of...
You're healthy and happy, and that's the main thing. Yeah.
Well, I got the pension, by the way. And
good.
it's the first time in my life I got something for nothing. And the first thing I did was go away and have a medical, because I said, there must be something wrong with me when I'm getting a fucking pension, right? I put a camera down my throat and everything, right? I have a, what do you call, reflux.
Acid reflux.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, so I'm amazed. Every week this money comes into your bank account. I usually had to work for it, so. They're going to put up the minimum wage. That's another thing too. In our time, early years ago, students, you get them jobs during the summer. But now minimum wages and everything, a lot of these students, there's no place for them to go because it's too expensive to have them. But as I say, our government, I mean, I'm being I've been warned about saying stuff about Tony Houlihan and our government and having to be the best in the world and major players and everything. And the other thing, just on that, I would just like to say that we have to go into court and get our licence renewed every year. And we pay to do that. And I always feel strongly that if I'm paying my licence, I should be able to serve who I want in our premises. I see where people are taking the court and have to pay out money because I think that I should be able to serve who I want in our premises if I'm paying for that license.
Again, that's the kind of the old way it was, but it's changed.
But it's crazy stuff. But there are actually people going into restaurants or pubs hoping to be refused so they'll be able to take a case.
Oh yeah, well, it's potentially worth a few bob, yeah. Well, listen, Gerry, I think that about wraps it up. It's been great chatting to you. You've provided a lot of memories, and I'm sure you got a few things off your chest, I hope. So thanks very much for coming on and being a part of the Voices of Boyle.
Cheers, Carlo.